everyone, welcome back to the Stay-at-Home Gardening. So today I'm going to talk about harvesting. I've got a few things in my garden today that I am going to harvest to eat, which is really exciting. And everything in this garden is at a different stage, so not everything's ready, and I don't want everything to be ready all at the same time. So for example, my garlic down here is quite small. That won't be ready until about August, the end of August in fact. And I've got tiny little carrots spread out in between here that sprouted up. So those won't be ready for quite a while. But this is broccoli. And if you take a close look at it, it's actually almost going to bolt. So understanding what a plant looks like when it's bolting is really important. So lettuce bolts, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, a lot of things, a lot of your plants will bolt. And that just means that the part that you eat or may want to eat will start producing flowers. For example, with kale, it's not necessary, that's not what you eat the leaves, but it will create a flower that actually is very similar to what broccoli looks like. It's like a yellow small flower. So broccoli, we're actually eating the crowns, which are premature flowers. These will turn into little yellow buds, and I want to chop this off before they turn into buds because I want to eat it. So if you have a knife or scissors, you can simply chop it off and put it in a little bowl for later. So that's one thing in my garden that I'm going to harvest. Another thing is my green onions and chives. So those I will clip like hair. I'm trimming and eating these part of my onions. These are little bunching onions. Down at the root you can see a little bit of the bulb popping out. I'm not interested in eating those right now, but I will take a few of these clippings off the top, and I can use these and just chop them up and put them in one of my dishes for dinner tonight, a garnish or a great for flavor. So that's another thing I want to harvest today in my garden. So the next thing I'm going to be harvesting from my garden is my spinach. Now you can use scissors if you'd like to simply cut the stem away, or if you think you can do it, you can just take your thumb and pinch it and break it off. So these are pretty easy to remove from the plant. Now you don't want to take all of the spinach off of this plant, but I'm going to definitely take the bigger ones because I want the plant to grow more leaves. So I'm encouraging it to grow more when I remove some of these spinach leaves. So now in my bowl I have spinach, I have some green onions, and I've got broccoli in the bottom. So we're starting to make quite the little harvest. So the next thing up is this kale plant. So it's enormous, and most of your kale plants will not look this big, but that's because this is almost a year old. And if you look at it, there are some little flowers on it, and that's it starting to bolt. So I really don't want that to happen. What I'll do is go around and trim these off. Sometimes you can do it with your fingers, other times you just have to snip it off. So I'm going to try to control this plant to keep it from bolting to flowers, because once it produces flowers, it will not want to produce that many leaves. So I will go throughout this every single week doing this. But the one thing I want to do is save some of these leaves. And then I can also go along the plant and pick some of the bigger ones. Now kale's really easy to harvest. You simply just take the leaf and pull it down. That's all you have to do. It breaks off quite nice. And again, you don't want to take off all the leaves off the plant, but this kale plant I can take off many. So some of the leaves are bigger. This is an older leaf, and this is more of a classic leaf. So this might be what you find at your grocery store. However, these smaller ones are really tender, so I like to pick off the smaller leaves and eat those. Now, as you can see, here is my basil plant. It has a little bit of damage from it being so cold, but overall this plant is doing just fine. So basil smells delicious and all the leaves are really tasty, but the best leaves to pick from are the top. So you simply just pinch this top little bunch off, and it will keep growing. So this is what you want when you're harvesting your basil. So there's another little top right here. I can pinch that off and leave those. Now, the leading reason that we want to do that Well, one, these are the newest, freshest, and tastiest leaves on the plant, so we're going to want to eat these. They're the best. And then the other reason is, once this starts growing really big and long, it will produce a kind of tail of flowers on the top. And that's what a basil plant looks like when it's bolting. So you do not want your basil plant to bolt, because the leaves below are less flavorful and the plant will put less energy into producing really tasty leaves, and it will in general stop producing leaves. It will put all of its energy into the flower that would grow on top to spread its seed for later. But what we want are leaves to keep growing so we can eat them and make really delicious food like pesto. Arugula, just like many other lettuces, doesn't want to get too big. Now, it looks different than a head lettuce, of course, because it's a little bit smaller. And the most common way you buy arugula in the store is baby arugula. So you want to just pick them as they get a little bit bigger, and those are going to be really tasty. This is a little bit of a spicier lettuce. It's one of my favorites, actually. But if you let it bolt and get too big and make flowers, it becomes very spicy, and not a lot of people like it that way. So one of the last plants that I'm going to show you guys today how to harvest is lettuce. Now, it is getting to be really hot out, and that's when you have to be careful with your lettuce. You want to make sure that you shade it for part of the day when it's really hot, because if it gets too hot, it will bolt, which is a phrase that I've been saying today. It will get very, very bitter, even if it doesn't create obvious bolting, which the plant will have a stem that will go straight up. It will get tall and bushy out that way, and not so much your classic lettuce plant that's flatter on the ground. But if it is very warm out, you might have some problems with your lettuce, so try to shade it if you have that possibility. But otherwise, make sure you pick it regularly. So again, like the spinach, you can use your scissors and clip it, or you can try to pull it off with your hands. So those are some tips on how to harvest some plants that I'm growing in my garden. If you guys have any questions about other plants and how to harvest them, or the ones I just went over, feel free to reach out, post comments below, or find us on Facebook. And happy harvesting, everyone.